Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. This is just the third video in a simple series, worship leader tips. If you're a worship leader, acoustic guitarist, if you lead worship from playing this instrument here, just a few videos to help, some techniques, some ideas. Once again, disclaimer, this is not for the professionals amongst us. This is basic level stuff just to help people across the church, across the world, that just do their best every Sunday to lead a congregation, and with this as one of our lead instruments. So we've done a couple of videos so far. I'd love for you to check those out. We've done a C home position, which makes chord playing really easy, so this doesn't become a barrier in our worship. We've looked basic numbers. We've also, the second one, we looked at how we fill the space when we've got an acoustic guitar, maybe in those instrumental times in worship. We don't have a piano, we can't transpose, we don't have a number of sounds available to us. This is all we have, so it's just a couple of techniques, how we can fill the space rather than just cycling around the four chords that we've been playing for the last 18 hours. Third video, and these are all based on the questions that I've been asked. So I thought I'd put this next one. This is going to be a short video. A young guy came up to me with some sheet music, and it was a relatively old worship song, and it had a seventh chord in it. So it was actually a C major 7. And so the young guy said, well, can I just play C? Because I don't know what a major 7 is. So I said, well, you could just play C if you wanted to. But there's obviously, that's written there for a reason, because the tonality of the chord is obviously there for a reason. So I wanted to educate you a little bit just on 3 7th chords, so that if you see a 7th chord written, you have the power and the knowledge to determine whether you want to play it, you should play it, how you play it, and why you should play it. So we never want a lack of knowledge to be an excuse as to why we don't play it and we just play safe. So there's many types of 7th chord, but we're just going to look at 3 common ones today. Now, in our contemporary Christian music that we play week in, week out, 7th chords have disappeared, really. They're not very familiar in our worship. They're occasionally fly in there. So I just wanted you to have the knowledge of 3 basic 7th chords, so you know when you play an acoustic guitar, you see that written, you have the knowledge as to whether you're going to play it or not and why you should play it. So we're going to look at 3 today. The first one is we're going to look at a major 7 chord. So if we just look at, let's look at C, for example. So we know that a chord is made up of a triad, which is 3 notes. So a C major is a 1, 3, and a 5. If we were to change that to a C minor, it's a 1, flattened 3, 5, or for you Americans among us, a minor third. But we're going to call it a flattened third today. So that makes up a major and a minor chord. Now, to make it a 7th chord, all we're doing is adding 1 additional note in, which, surprise, surprise, is a 7th. Now, they do change slightly as the chord, so we're going to look at 3 types of 7th chord. We're going to look at a major 7, a dominant 7, and a minor 7 today. So let's start with the major 7, because that's the easiest one, and my favourite out of all of the 3, if there were to be a favourite. So a major 7 consists of a 1, 3, a 5, and a 7. So that's a really simple structure. Now, the tonality and the sound of a major 7 chord is quite different to the others. It's like that kind of, you're driving along, summer's day, the sun is setting, it's a really nice atmosphere, and it's that laid back kind of nice chord. So if I were to play a normal C, a C major 7 sounds like this. It's the arpeggio would be. So that's what a major 7 chord sounds like. It's 1, 3, 5, and a 7. Now, when I was taught to play guitar, when I went to music college, I was taught, okay, we need to be able to play that chord in a number of different forms across the fretboard. So we have an E form chord, an A form, and a D form. And what that means is the root note of the chord either starts on the E, the A, or the D string. So I'll just show you 2 today. So we'll show you the E form and the A form. So if we want to do a C major 7, that starts with the root note on the E string. So we've got our C there. We need to know what position we're going to play. Now, the simplest way I can show you is just to revert back and we look at an F major 7 very quickly. So if you were to put your fingers on to do an open A minor chord, like kind of basic open chord that we all learned from the beginning. Now, if you were to then put your finger on the root note of the F there, and then mute this A string, don't play that at all, that's going to give us the structure that we're going to use for a major 7 chord. So it sounds like... So if we place that on the C there, we're just going to put a root note there. We've got that kind of A minor-y looking position here. And then we're going to mute this string here and it sounds like this. Fantastic. So that's the E form version. So now we're going to look at the A form version of the major 7. So what we're going to do, if we had our kind of C bar chord here, it may look something like that. We're just going to swap a few fingers around and we're going to basically play a position that looks like this. So instead of our kind of A position here, we're effectively going to move this note one back so it looks like that. So this is what it'll sound like on the A form. So you go... So it's a 1, 3, 5 and a 7. So there is times when that chord is obviously tonally wise, it's totally different to a C major. So you can then decide whether you play the major 7 chord. Right, let's look at a minor 7 chord. Now the minor 7 is probably more common than the major 7 and the dominant 7 in contemporary Christian music. So a minor 7 chord is a 1, a flat 3, a 5, and a minor 7, a flat 7. So there's two differences between a major 7 and a minor 7. You have a flattened third and you have a flattened 7th. So you can work those out in your own time if you're in the key of C. So just looking at the C, so we look at the E form chord first, which is the root note starting on the E string. We basically, we bar across. So if we were going to do our kind of C major, which kind of looks like that, sounds nice. Basically what we do is we're going to leave this third finger on, take these two off, and the minor 7 is as simple as that. Now sometimes I would put my little finger here on the B string just down here, but so it sounds something like that. It's quite a funky sounding chord, so not got room to do that. So it's a 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. So that's how you play it on the E form chord. Now if we were to look at the A form, we're going to start back down here. So once again, if we just look at our kind of C minor position on the A form, it would sound like that. So all we're literally going to do is take our little finger off. It's as simple as that. And then we have the C minor 7 position. It's a bit easier to play on an A. So we've done major 7, we've done minor 7, and then the final one is called a dominant 7, or just, you might see it written as C7. So it doesn't have major or minor in front of it, but the kind of traditional word is a dominant 7. So it's a major sounding chord, but it has a very slight difference. So major 7, we have 1, 3, 5, 7. Minor 7, we have 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. And then a dominant 7 chord is pretty similar. So you have 1, 3, 5, which makes it the minor tonality, and then we flatten the 7th. So the difference between a dominant 7 and a major 7 is one thing, a flat 7. So on the E form, how we play that is pretty simple. So you do your major position on the C, and then like we did with that minor chord, all we're literally going to do is take off our little finger here, and that gives us that dominant 7. So it's a very bluesy kind of 12-bar blues sound. It's that kind of sound. Not massively popular in today's Hillsong anthems, but anyway, it's there should you need it. So if we're going to look at that on the E form, we're going to then also see how we play that on the A form. So if we go back to C again, we look at our kind of C major bar chord here. Literally all we're going to do is take off this finger here, so we kind of leave a gap between the two. So I commonly would change that around slightly and just put my fingers there like that. So just to reiterate, we're going to do the major chord there, and then we're taking off this middle finger so it leaves a string in between. So major, so dominant 7 chord on here. So Just to reiterate, C major 7, 1, 3, 5, 7, C minor 7, 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, and then we've got our dominant 7, which is a 1, 3, 5, flattened 7th. So there you go. Really quickly, just showing you through 3 variations, 2 forms of playing it, 3 types of 7 chord. So when you see that music or you see that chord, you now have the knowledge of what it is, why it is, and now you can play it. Hopefully that helps you. Check out the next video coming very soon.